I'm Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm here with you to explore your intuition, the supernatural, and self-empowerment. This is Third Eyesight. Hey party people, welcome to another episode of Third Eyesight. Today I want to talk about spiritual friendships and friendships that feel impacted by your spiritual journey. This is not an easy topic, and I want to just disclaim at the top of the episode, none of what I'm going to say is about you needing to cut anybody out of your life. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to tell you what relationships to keep or not keep or how to run your relationships. I'm focusing here just on you, your experience of these relationships. Okay? So as you undergo your spiritual journey, your relationships may feel different or may change because you're changing. You're learning and growing. As with anything in life, when you grow out of a certain stage of your own experience, you're going to see parts of that former experience differently, or that former stage of your life differently. And I especially want to focus on just the natural course of relationships. Like, we all know that some things are meant to last, some things are not meant to last, and that can be very painful. And that's okay. Some things are not meant to last forever because we're changing, or they're changing, or our values don't align anymore because we decided to stop drinking on the weekends, or we decided to, I don't know, not do high-risk activities anymore, like skydiving all the time, and this friend really wants to skydive all the time. Whatever it is, that just naturally happens as we get older, as we grow. And so as you are especially undergoing a spiritual journey and growing as a spiritual person, the way you see friendships in your life, current friendships, or just friendships in general, just the idea of friendship, that may change for you, the way you see it. And what you need from friendships, what you want to get out of your friendships, may change as well. I'll share a quick client example. I was working with a client and in a coaching capacity, and they were really excited to discover their spiritual community where they live. And they had talked about wanting to connect with other people who are involved in the spiritual world and want to meet more people like that, so I'm using my own words to describe what they told me, so it could like rub off on them. They could feel inspired by other people, which is really great. Same reason people may go to a gym with a community, because they want to feel inspired by other people, right? Same thing. And I had told this client, after asking them some questions about, what exactly are they looking for? What are they excited for? Well, first they had asked me, I believe, if I remember correctly, about my experience finding spiritual community. And they asked for my opinion. And so I told them, I said, yeah, my experience was this. It's that I did find that community, and I also discovered that not everyone in that community was comfortable to be around. They weren't the kinds of people I wanted to be friends with, and that's okay. And this client was a little surprised to hear that. And I think they were a little surprised because, no fault of their own for thinking this way, many of us think this way as we're looking for spiritual community. A lot of us think that when we enter a community of people who are spiritually curious or want to spiritually advance, we think, oh, these are all people who have good intentions or who want to evolve like I do and have the same kind of mindset. And that's not always the case. Even the same kind of values, it may not happen that you have the same kind of values with someone in a spiritual community. That may happen. And it can be sometimes an uncomfortable awakening, a rude awakening, uncomfortable awakening to discover that, oh, not everyone in the spiritual community is nice. There's some not nice people in this community. It happens. So I want to impart to you all listening right now to this episode, I want to impart the awareness that just because you find a spiritual community doesn't mean you're going to be friends with everyone in that spiritual community. You're going to get along with everyone in that spiritual community. And I thought I would go through a list of the kinds of some of the toxicity that I've noticed in spiritual communities, and the four kinds. I have three or four kinds of people, three kinds of people that I've met that I can clearly define for myself in my experience that I would like others, I would like you to be aware of, because you don't deserve to be on a spiritual journey and meet people who are going to bring you down. Meet people who are going to want to take away an experience from you. Meet people who are going to make you feel like you're crazy or like you're not worthy of an experience. That can happen. It's happened to me in a spiritual community. So here are the three types of spiritual people or spiritually involved people that I've come across. There's the holier-than-thou people. People who make themselves out to be better than you because they believe a certain thing spiritually or they do a certain practice spiritually, and you're not as in tuned or enlightened as they are because you don't do it the way they do it. You don't meditate for 2 hours a day. You eat meat. You drink soda. I've met someone who has told someone else, this I heard through the grapevine, so it's not, this is some hearsay, as Judge Judy would say. Someone told me that this person told them not to drink soda. It's not spiritual. It will cut you off. And me and this person were like, okay. Okay then. Okay, you can think that. And look, power to them. But, geez, most of the world is really not connected then if soda is a spirit blocker. So, holier than thou. That is something we see in religious communities, and we see it also in non-religious spiritual communities as well. People who think they're better than others because of their practice or the way they believe or the way they live their lives. So uncool. Such a turnoff. I don't like it. The second kind of person I've come across, and people are not going to like hearing this, but I'm going to say it. I'm an empath, so don't upset me. I'm an empath, so don't trigger me. I'm an empath, so no. Just no. Some of you remember past episodes where I talk about the term empath. I have a lot of trouble with the word empath. Maybe my mind will change. I'm open to my mind changing, okay? But I believe we are all on a spectrum of, we all have a spectrum of empathy within us. One extreme end of the spectrum is sociopath, no empathy at all for other people. And the other end, it's people pleasing. And I'm not a psychologist, don't quote me on this, but based on what I've learned, what I've experienced as a people pleaser, and it's like there are extremes to this, right? So to say I'm an empath, well, most people have empathy unless you clinically don't, right? So this identity of I'm an empath, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Would I call myself an empath? Yes, but just like how I would call myself a Latino, a gay man, of which there are many in the world. It's not a unique identifier, personally, in my opinion, because we all have some empathy within us. So when people use this term as an excuse for not taking responsibility for something, it really, really grinds my gears. Just because you say you're an empath doesn't mean you shouldn't face the music. Just because you're an empath doesn't mean that you should not take responsibility for that crappy thing you did. That's another kind of... I've met some people who paint themselves as being a sensitive person, but are actually just really, really avoidant. And just... they don't want to deal. They just don't want to deal. And sometimes you got to deal with stuff. Sometimes you got to If someone's upset, you got to hear them out. Not just be like, you're upset and I'm an empath, so I can't listen to you right now. I'm getting the ick just painting that scenario for you, listener. It just gives me such the ick because it's so rude for someone who says they're an empath. It's such a rude thing to do. I'm an empath, so I'm not going to deal with you. So rude and so avoidant. And I don't think anyone should use the term empath as a shield, an avoidance shield, or as an excuse. Now, I've met people who say they are empaths who are truly remarkable people. I'm not saying everyone who calls himself an empath acts like this. I may disagree about using the term empath, but there are many great people who call themselves empaths who are just lovely. But there are some people in spiritual communities who will use that term as a weapon or use it as a way to excuse themselves from taking responsibility. Number 3, the third kind of person, people who in spiritual communities are involved in spiritual communities or have a practice who are spiritually bypassing. I had a friend who I had the joy of being friends with for maybe a year and a half. And we developed a very codependent relationship as friends. And I was at a point in my life when I was in a very sensitive part of my life in terms of my romantic, like my dating life. And we just kept leaning on each other to listen to each other about each other's problems a lot. And after a while, I noticed, we're going around in circles. They're going around in circles with me. And in terms of our conversations about our problems, and I think I'm ready to not do that anymore. And once I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, and I started to set some boundaries with them, like, hey, let's not send 10-minute voice notes anymore. Let's maybe cut it. At first it was okay with them, but then it really became not okay with them. And they were pissed. And this is just an example, and this is this is hard because I was raised to be a people pleaser, and so my people pleaser was so affected by this experience. I'm not trying to be a victim here. I am far from being a victim in this experience. I just felt it was hard for me to decide, am I being the asshole here? Am I being an asshole by setting these boundaries? But now when I look back, it really was not a very healthy interaction between us. Even though they were pretty lovely, I feel like I was lovely with them. I really enjoyed some conversations with them, but we would just we would just spill to each other the way someone would to a therapist. And when I decided to set a boundary with them, it just, and I from what I remember checking in with them, like, how does this sound to you? Not just setting a boundary and telling them what to do, but asking, like, how does that sound to you? We were going to try it. Like, they were open to trying it. They weren't crazy about it, but they were open to trying it. So there was choice being made on both our parts, right? But it's just, we kept going back and they were somebody who, again, they were a spiritual practitioner. That's how we connected, just like I'm a spiritual practitioner with my readings. They started in so many words telling me that I'm like the other men in their life, or I'm like the other people in their life who do this, and people do this to them. And it made me realize, as much as, and I send love to this person that I'm thinking about, but it made me realize that, wow, there's some stuff that you got to work through. And I don't say that with judgment. Listen, I've told listeners on this podcast before, I go to therapy because I need it. I need it to feel okay sometimes. So I'm not trying to, again, be like holier than thou, like the first example of the toxic, spiritually involved person I'm talking about. It's just about, like, listen, I can be friends with anyone who's lovely, but the moment that you start to paint me as one of your problems that you always deal with in people, it's like, what are you projecting onto me? And why am I just like everyone else who gives you a problem? And so this person, it just seemed to me like they were doing all this spiritual, they were involved in this spiritual profession that they were involved in and doing readings for people. But yet when it came to themselves and their personal connections with people like me outside of the work, I think they really wanted someone to help them feel safe. And we should expect friends and boyfriends and girlfriends and partners to help us feel safe to an extent. There's only so much they can do to help us feel safe in the relationship, in the friendship. But if the person's doing everything they can to set healthy boundaries with you, help keep the friendship safe and going with these new boundaries, and you're not contributing on your end, then the friendship is maybe not meant to be. And it's not about anyone being wrong. Two people have to agree on how to run a friendship. Two people have to agree on how to run a relationship. And if one has a different way of doing it than the other, and that's a big pain point for the relationship, that means the relationship maybe will not work. And that's okay. It's not about them being wrong, me being right, vice versa. It's just not a match. And so in this case, this person, the reason it became uncomfortable to be in connection with them is because I kept feeling like I was being blamed for triggering parts of her life experience that had nothing to do with me. That was really uncomfortable. And I got really tired of it. And there was one time, it was October of 2020. When was that? 2024, I think. 2023. Wow, 2023. Oh my gosh. It's been a long time. I think it was October 2023. I set a boundary with them. And they did not respond to me. We stayed connected on social media. A year later, they responded to me. A year later. Responding to me like it had been 3 days. And I said, hey, I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry, but I had decided this friendship was already done. And they said, yeah, I figured. Then they unfollowed me. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm just like, I'm not offended by any of that, but it's like, what? Because I said because I reiterated that boundary we had already set, that I had already set. You're waiting a year to respond to me and acting as if you're responding 3 days later? So was this friendship going according to your terms? So that's what I'm talking about. People who are spiritually involved aren't ever perfect, like everybody else on this planet. You're going to meet people who are absolutely wonderful, who are great, who walk the talk, who practice what they preach. And you're going to meet other people who I can split this into two categories. You have people who really don't have good intention and who want to take advantage of people, take advantage of friendships and spiritual communities. And you have other people who are just hurting and they're making decisions, making choices from a place of hurt, which then hurts other people or makes other people feel uncomfortable. And I have empathy. I have empathy for those people. I have empathy for this person. This person I just mentioned was going through a lot. And I felt really guilty setting a boundary with them. I didn't like doing it. I brought it up in therapy. It affected me that much because I felt terrible. But I didn't know what to do when I just couldn't therapize my friendship with them anymore. I couldn't do it. It was really hard. And my love goes out to them. I don't want to be in a friendship with them again because it was a lot. It was really heavy. It was heavy to feel like I had to. It was, I'm not going to put it all on me, all the burden. I was putting a burden on them too. We were both tasking each other with listening to 10-minute voice notes about our problems. Not cool. Not cool of me, not cool of them. And I was the first one to say, let's stop doing this. And they didn't like it. They didn't like it. So there are people who are just hurting and they turn to spirituality and spiritual practice, to spiritual community to fill a God-shaped hole. But what we need to understand about this journey is nothing's going to fill that God-shaped hole completely without us doing the work on ourselves. Spiritual community can help alleviate, the worries, the concerns, the anxiety. It can help do that, but it's not going to help completely. We have to do the work. And some people don't want to do the work. It's uncomfortable for them to do the work. So they avoid it by turning to other things in the spiritual world. Crystals, shamans, psychic readings every 3 days, doing psychic readings for other people. When I first started doing readings, I enjoyed it so much, but I think that I was doing those readings from a place of escaping from myself. Like, oh my God, I'm doing a good deed. I'm helping people feel a little happier, feel some relief, feel some closure. And I was doing it from a place of joy, but also some avoidance. I was avoiding my own journey as a human. And that changed the more I decided to confront my human journey. The more I decided to confront my inner child pain points. And so if we keep doing this work or keep being involved in spiritual communities because we're doing it from a place of, I need you to help me feel good. Period. End of story. It's not ever going to be enough. We have to do some of that work. The only thing that could ever be enough for us is ourselves. Nothing else outside of us, I believe, can ever completely fill that cup for us. We can do that. You know what? I'll put it this way. I'm coming up with a new analogy before we close this episode. Spiritual community, books, friendships, hobbies, these are all the ice cubes in a cup, but we fill the cup with water. The ice cubes help raise the water up to a certain level so it feels full. But with just ice cubes, that cup isn't completely ever full because ice cubes will not completely fill the cup, even when there are ice cubes up to the brim of the cup. With the water that we can pour into our own cup, you have a full cup. And the ice cubes in that cup just help it rise to the top, but not without our own work. So with that, I will remind you that spiritual relationships or what you want to get out of relationships in your life, friendships in your life, may look different over time as you're growing, as you're evolving. And it's going to feel a little scary, okay? I'm not going to BS you. It can feel a little scary, a little uncomfortable. But you'll be okay. And it's going to be fine. And you're going to find other friendships. You're going to find communities, maybe new communities within the spiritual realm. Heck, maybe even non-spiritual communities. Not everything that is spiritually fulfilling has to come from a mediumship circle or a psychic group or a crystal shop community meetup. It can come from a rowing team. It can come from a baseball team. It can come from a pickleball meetup. You know why? Because everyone at that pickleball meetup is a human with a soul. And you never know what impact you're going to make or what impact someone's going to make on you anywhere. So be open and just know that friendships and the way you see friendships can change, and that's okay. Just be open. And give yourself some grace as you navigate this part of your journey where maybe right now you're hearing me talk about this. And you're like, yeah, I'm starting to question some of the connections I have in my life. Or I'm starting to think about the kinds of friendships I want to have, and the ones I have right now, they're not really filling my cup the way that I like them to. Those ice cubes they're not providing a lot of ice cubes for my cup. That's okay. Be gracious with yourself as you ask yourself these questions. And listen to your gut. Listen to what your gut says. And be fair, as someone has taught me very well. Be fair to others and be fair to yourself at the same time, as best as you can be. I'll leave you with that. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you on the next episode. This podcast is really about helping you trust your own intuition and step into your power. If you'd like to work with me directly, you can learn more at juanfrancisco.co. That's juanfrancisco.co. And please remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend.